Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Bert McGurk, a.k.a. PR, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and today I have a special guest with me, Deb. Deb, how are you doing?
I am doing awesome. Doing wonderful.
How was your day today?
Today was a busy day as always, but loving life, doing what I love. So it's really awesome.
I hear you. It's always great when you get to do what you love, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get started on all this, yes, this is something I always like to get out of the way, but we are members of the V-Friends community, correct?
Yes, we are. Absolutely proud members. Yes.
And I know everyone who tunes in and always supports us and what we do in the community all knows about V-Friends. So we'll touch on that a little bit. But before we do, please let us know who Deb is. Tell us a brief description of who you are, where you're from, and a little bit of a background of your history and what led you to basically work into what you're doing today in your profession or your career, or what your goals are moving forward.
Sure. So to start with, just who is Debbie personally? So I am at level 55 in the game of life. So that's what I like to say, that I've got anybody who's younger than 55, I've got you beat. I've got levels on you. And so basically, I've been divorced and widowed. And so this is my single phase. I like to say that I am my own the person that I can't even say what I want to say. Isn't that funny? But I am my primary relationship is with myself. There we go. So that's how I look at myself for these next 50 years, is that my primary relationship with myself. And I wish I had known that when I was married, because I feel like I lived my life for everybody else, including my 3 kids, which is 18, 20, and 22. So I have 3 kids. And then my mom also, who's just turned 82, lives with me as well. So I have a full house still. They're not quite out of the nest yet. So that's me personally. And then professionally, I am a CPA, and I've been in my own CPA firm for about 22 years. When I was working for corporate America in CVS Pharmacy Store Support Center doing analytics, marketing analytics. And suddenly I became pregnant, and I didn't want anything to do with the corporate rat race. And so going back to being a CPA, I could do taxes and accounting. So I said, why not? Let's just start a CPA firm. And that's what I did way back 22 years ago. And here I am now with a growing practice, and it's exciting. I'm doing what I love in my own business, which is just, I couldn't even imagine working for someone else. That's
And could you tell us a little bit more about your journey as a CPA, and how did you transition into offering the abundance coaching alongside accounting services and things like that? Give us a little bit more information on that, how you got into that.
Well, I just absolutely love helping small businesses. That's my and then just my overall need to help people. I just want to help people. And so I, being someone who can actually do budgeting, and I had early on clients that just couldn't manage their money, overspending and having to, they'd come to me with huge credit card debt. And so I learned pretty quickly in my early years that people needed coaching. And so it was just one of those things where I naturally fell into it, because even though I had, I studied at Northeastern University for an accounting degree, and then I did 3 years at Arthur Andersen doing public accounting auditing, and then I went to CVS Pharmacy doing some corporate work in store budgeting and analytics, and then of course I landed in my small business and dealing with just people with their tax returns, and then after their tax returns are done, they talk to me about their finances. And it's amazing, when you're doing someone's tax return, you really learn everything there is to know about them. And so you gain a lot of trust with your clients. And so they were leaning on me for other knowledge. And from there, I just I don't know. I don't know where I just, oh, I read one book. The book was called The Architecture of All Abundance. And that's when the word abundance came into my life. And that was the word, that was my word. And to become an abundance coach and to really lean into teaching. That's what I want to do for the next 50 years, is to teach people to have more abundance in their life. That's who I am.
And how do you go about that? Like, that's like, to me, that's something that's real selfless. Like, you're really taking your time, your energy, and you're helping the next person. How, like, what really inspires you to do that? What makes you do that? Like, anybody else would be like, I want to take this information and just make sure I better my life and fix my situation and take care of me. It's really hard to find people who are willing to take the knowledge that they have and share it with others, especially for free, because they just want to. Like, what is it that drives a person to do that without really a second thought and really wants to just help someone else just for the fact to help?
Yeah, well, of course, I do charge in my CPA practice,
Okay.
um, but as V friends know, they've DM'd me, and I've helped people as they've needed help, which is wonderful. So that's why I love the V friend community, because people have helped me and I've helped them. It's just a very giving community, and and it's one of those things where um, everybody said, I felt like this is one of my. I'm going to lean into something that I've been wanting to share with people, is that um, you really need to figure out what it is that you want out of life, and not listen to your mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, everybody else telling you what to do, right? And I remember this, like, I don't know where it came from, but somewhere in my life, people were like, oh, you need to be a millionaire, you need to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I could make a lot of money, but I never got motivated to make a lot of money. It really wasn't a priority of mine. Like, there's been opportunities where I could make more money, and it just didn't go after it. It just wasn't part of it. But helping people, doing my coaching stuff is just awesome. I just want to do more of that. So it was one of those things when I finally let go of that whole burden of, oh, I got to be a millionaire, and said, you know what, I'm just going to go help people, because that's what I really enjoy doing. Instead of listening to what society says I have to do, I have to go make a lot of money. And, you know, and so this is where it leans into the whole thing of, you can make 70,000 a year and be extremely happy.
True.
You don't have to make a million.
True.
My favorite client that came to me was a woman who was in her 60s, and she only she made like 20,000 a year on Social Security, but she had inherited a lot of money, so she had millions in the bank.
Nice.
And but she had millions sitting in like CDs and very low
Gotcha.
risk
Gotcha.
investments. So
Mm-hmm.
she came to me saying, Debbie, can I leave it in these low, everyone tells me I'm supposed to go put it in the market and da da da. And she came to me because I don't sell any investments. So I was like, no, you can follow the joy factor. You do not have to. I mean, she was living. The funny part was she made 20,000 a year and lived on 10, because all her circle of friends all had limited income too. So they all knew how to live well and happy
Nice.
on very little money, because they all were in, I forget, government housing or whatever. So they all had, and so she kept putting more and more money away. And I was like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong. I was telling, she didn't have anybody who, she didn't have any family that was going to inherit it. So I made sure that I talked to her about planned giving, make sure she knew who she wanted her money to go to, like charities, or so that the government would just get it. It would end up in whatever, places that she wanted it to. So it was kind of cool to meet somebody who made so little money, was so happy with life, and was really, again, feeling the societal pressure of, you have to do this. I'm one of those people, when people say, hey, Deb, what's the right financial advice? I go, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because it really comes down to what I call the joy factor. What
True.
really brings you joy? That's the right answer. Because
I
you never go spend money on a $200,000 education if it was all about the right financial decision. The right
Yeah,
financial decision
exactly.
would never
Exactly.
be, don't go spend 200,000 at a college,
Yep.
because that's not going to bring you joy when you get the first loan bill.
Exactly.
But but if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or somebody that needs that education in order to credentials to get to the job you want to get to, then that's where you got to go. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think a lot of people got stuck on that. I think a lot of people get in this thing where they believe, and I mentioned this on many other podcasts as well. And I know this is something that Gary talks about too in the community and all his content, that a lot of people tend to think that everything is like scheduled, or there's like a law, or it's written in stone that, you know, if it's not that as soon as you get out of high school you have to go to college and you have to get a career and you do that, if not it's by this age you have to be married, and this age you have to have kids, and this
Right.
age you have to, like, everyone gets this mentality that if they don't do certain things by a certain point, like everyone else is doing, that they're failing in life, or that they don't know what's going on and they're not going to be able to be successful or achieve anything, or they won't be happy. And I strongly believe in what you're saying. I think it's something that we need to self-evaluate and really find out what it is that we want, but not really what we want in the sense of like material things, but the things that are going to keep us happy, because we tend to put a lot of time and effort in these temporary things that just numb the I guess the focus of what we're really supposed to be doing. And it's just because it's a lot easier compared to putting in the work to actually get something that we really want to achieve or want to obtain. So I agree with you in that. I think we need to focus more on what makes us happy, and just make that a priority instead of focus on what other people think, and you know how they feel about our decisions and how long it takes. I don't think there's any time limit. We shouldn't be worried about how long it's going to take us to achieve, whether getting that career that we want, or finding that special person, or getting a house, or reaching a certain amount in our bank account, you know. But I do think that it's one of those things, if we properly focus on what makes us happy, we'll slowly start getting all those things that we really want without really noticing, you know.
And so that leans into, so I have two main things that I want to make sure that that after listening to this stream that you take away. So the first thing is, the most important thing is you, the one listening, the one that's processing all this information. You are the most important thing here. You have to realize that everything we say today may not be for you, and you got to leave it on the shelf. Figure out what it is for you in this whole process. So I like to do this little thing called "It's All About Me." And then the second point is 1% better every day. So
I
all
love
about
that.
me,
I love that.
1% better every day. So those are the 2 points I'm going to drive home to on this conversation, so that we can just really hone in on why it's so important to focus on what you want in life and what you need. Because, that little small voice that when I was like, oh my, it's amazing how physically my body changed and I became pregnant and I wanted to be in my own business. I didn't want to be working for anybody else. um, and just really listening to that inner voice on what you really need to be doing. And my way of getting people to do 1% better is with my abundance scale. So the abundance scale is a tool I created because of my coaching, because of the fact that I had people that were not moving forward. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, what is going on here? So I created the abundance scale so that it would help me as a coach. And it also, I think it's a great self-assessment tool. So basically, I asked people to put themselves on the abundance scale from 0 to 10. 0 is none of time, none of money, just really hate your life. You're just in a 0. 10 is plenty of money, plenty of time, love your life. Love your life is probably the biggest thing. And abundance is not just about money, it's the overall feeling of your life. And based on where you fall on that scale, it gives me a really good sense of how to coach you. And so take a moment. PR, if you want to tell me where you are on the abundance scale, that'd be awesome.
As far as, I guess, like, in the sense of what, like where I am in my life right now, or
Just in this very moment. You can actually do it as kind of like a mindset thing. Where are you at this very moment?
in all honesty, I feel, to be completely honest, I feel lost. Not lost in the sense like I don't know like what I want, but in the sense of I don't know which direction to go.
Okay.
Because I feel like the problem with me, and I think a lot of people have, is that there's so much information nowadays. When you want to do something and you go online, it's hard to really focus on one source of information, because nowadays everyone is an expert. So whenever you go online and you're trying to look for like the point in the right direction, there's so many different places to go. And I feel like because of that, it gets overwhelming, and it gets to the point where I don't know, because all of us, I feel like, or maybe it's just me, I feel like whenever you want to do something, we always try to look for like that blueprint or that instruction guide of like how to do it the right way. And in all honesty, there really isn't a right or wrong way. It's just doing it and figuring out what works for you and adapting to what happens in your own way. So I think that that's really my problem. I have a hard time really accepting the fact that there isn't a rule book out there as much as I would like one, and I think I just need to go out and do it. And it's just that fear of not knowing if I'm taking the right step or not.
So this is where I would just put you smack in the middle. Let's say you're a 5. Let's say you're a 5 on the abundance scale, because you're in between place. You're usually, people who are on 5s waffle back and forth between having a very positive mindset and a negative mindset. It's a very dangerous, precarious place to be, because we got to push you over to the positive side, over to where, because anybody below 5 has one homework assignment: gratitude, complete gratitude. You cannot do a thing without having a positive mindset. It is
True.
just absolutely 100% necessary to get you to over 5. So anybody who comes to me who is below 5, we do not do a single thing for their finances. I give them books to read, podcasts. I give them, whatever they like, so if they're readers or they're listeners or whatever they need, we get them something that fits to them, that's going to lift them up on their abundance scale. Lots of gratitude homework. So we talk about different exercises they can do for gratitude. The goal is to get 1% better every day on the abundance scale. So if you're at a 5, what would you need to do in this very moment just to get 1% better? 0.1 on the abundance scale to get 5.1. And, and usually people can come up with something immediately, like, I need to go pay that bill, and that would make me feel better. If I just literally go take the time, go in my bank account and pay that bill, and make me feel better. And then it gets them 1% better. So if you can do this self-assessment every day to get 1% better, it's heading you in the right direction. You're actually taking the time to do the self-assessment. What is it that I want out of life? Not what the world wants, what do I want out of life? And really take that time to say, this is where I'm at. And then also taking the time to say, what does a 10 life look like? What is my 10 life? If I was to hit 10, what would it look like? Or what would the journey to the 10 life look like? So maybe it's going to take some time to get to your 10 life, but as long as I'm on that path, I can be a 10. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm actually taking baby steps towards that 10 life. So those are some of the tools that I use in my coaching practice to really help people move forward, to get in touch with who they are. Because what's the most important thing in the world? Me. I'm the most important person in the world.
100%.
And then what's the next thing? 1% better every day. That's it. Those are the 2 main focus points of everything that I do when I coach people.
And what do you tell people who, I guess, either slack on that themselves, or what's the advice you would give someone? Because I know, like myself, I'm the type of person that if I don't have somebody like giving me that little nudge or that kick that I need to keep me going, I tend to fall off. Like I'll be the type, like right now, I'll talk to you and I'll be like, yes, let's go. I'm ready to take on the world. And then after a day, I'm like, that fire has died down. Like, what's the advice that you would give anyone that tends to feel like, not that they're burning out, but they tend to just lose that energy or that fuel, that spark that they had?
And that's where you need to create containers. It's kind of a silly word, or relationships. So that's something that I really am leaning into a lot now that I'm divorced and widowed, is I know that I have to have a really strong support network. And it's really finding that person that you could talk to daily, that you actually do the motivation stuff with, and they hold you accountable to it, you set an agreement that we talk for 5 minutes, and the goal is for you to make sure that I'm moving forward on whatever I said that I need to move forward on. So you hold this container. You can also join me on Discord, because every morning I go out there and I post where I'm at on the abundance scale and some questions for you to answer. Or you can join me on Facebook, because I have a Facebook group. So I put the same thing on both. So feel free to join me on that self-assessment journey daily. in the two social media realms. So it's definitely something that you can seek out either somebody else to do it with. Like an example, I was having a hard time getting motivated on exercise. So I used the Discord chat, the VFriends Discord general chat for whenever I needed motivation for exercise. I would just go talk to Updo and he would just say, get your butt up there, Debbie, go do
Nice.
it. So it's one of those things where you can find motivation. You know what I mean? You just have to be consistent yourself to go seek it out. So it's, saying, currently right now I have a friend that meets me at 7:20 on the phone, and we hold space for each other for different purposes. So for 30 minutes we do X, and she does that want something, I do something else. So it's just a way in this short tier, we both have a goal to accomplish, and we needed someone to hold ourselves accountable to. So find an accountability partner. That's abundance of accountability is one of my favorite things to help people do. Two things: make sure that you're the priority, it's all about me, and 1% better.
I love that, and I agree with you. I used to be in the Discord for V Friends a lot. Like it was my
Yeah.
life, and I actually had to like now it's like a thing that I'm really against. Like I like Discord, but I stopped going into the V Friends Discord. Not that I have anything against it, but it got so overwhelming. There were so many things happening, and then I started getting that thing where I felt guilty if I wasn't able to show up or support everybody because everyone there, and especially in the V Friends community, everyone is so supporting and so like they're there for you. Whether you just joined, whether you've been there since day one, they don't treat you any differently. They don't they're so willing to help and share information without like even a moment's hesitation, which is something that I really love. But sometimes it gets really overwhelming, and this is what I wanted to ask you next: is what do you do when you feel like you're not able to return that same amount of either energy or time or value, like especially in a Discord like that? You have so many people that are willing to give so much that sometimes it gets overwhelming to the point that I feel I'm not giving back enough, and it makes me feel bad. I feel like, there's so many people willing to help, but it's like I don't have anything of value to give anybody.
Oh, that's
You
so
know?
true. Oh, that's so not true. But anyways, that is definitely that's just a perception thing. I would just flip it on its head. Um, there's so in this world, there's times where you are meant to be a giver, and a time that you're meant to be a taker. And that's where my whole it's all about me really comes in. Sometimes you need to be a taker, and you need to give people the opportunity to help you.
True.
It's actually really important that you allow others to help you when it's your turn to be helped. And that is just, so actually one of my really good friends, Brados, from the general chat, he actually, we were having one of our deep philosophy conversations, and he was talking about, I was saying, oh, in a relationship you really have to have 50-50 back and forth. He's like, no. He said, no, you don't. If both parties are okay with 80-20, then it's okay. If one partner is willing to give 80 and the other one 20, and they like that arrangement, there's nothing wrong with that. And I went, oh, right. Oh,
That's true. That's true.
yeah, right.
I never looked at it like that neither. I honestly feel, again, maybe that falls into line like what I was saying before. It's one of those things that we assume it's written in stone and it's a rule that it has to be 50-50. Because I'm not gonna lie, I feel the same way. And then when you say it that way, it's true. It doesn't, if they're okay with it, or both parties or both people,
Yes,
whatever
both
it is,
people.
are okay with it, it's true. It shouldn't be an issue, despite what other people might think
Yeah.
or how they look at it. But it's true. I feel, yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with you on that. I do.
Yeah, so it's really, this is where, I love to talk about things that nobody else likes to talk about. So I talk about money. I love it's just, politics, love it. I've gotten in trouble too much with politics, so I've backed away from that conversation.
I can imagine. I know that that's done, especially online. That's a thing where
It's
it's
just
like no
like
matter what,
I'm like,
it's a,
whoop, nope, I
yep,
can't go there.
I hear you.
So, but with close friends and people who are safe, we can go that we can
Yeah,
talk about politics. Because of that I lost my late husband, I actually like to talk about death now, and I would not have said that 3 years ago. But death is something that needs to be talked about in our society. We need to talk. I like to talk about Richard. Richard is a part of my has was a part of my life for 10 years, and he's very important to me. Even in his passing, he made a huge impact in my life. Um, so it's one of those things where talking about people who have died, where I was always so shy about talking about people. When people lose people, you're kind of like, I don't want to talk to them. But I
Yeah,
know for me, it was therapy when people talked to me about him, and I still today love to talk about him and my friends that I've lost that have passed. I have a tradition on his birthday that I gather all his male friends. He had like almost 10 male friends. So I gather them all around and we go to dinner. So I have, all their, because then they all loved him. I loved him. So it's just a really great feeling to get together with all of his male friends that just loved Richard. And so
I
it's just
love
my
that.
little tradition to do. Oh, I got down a rabbit hole. Sorry about that. I don't,
No, don't worry about that. There's no
oh yeah.
problem with that.
Yeah. So anyways, but yeah, so it's really, talking about taboo topics, because money is one of the biggest taboo topics out there. So most counselors don't want to talk when they're doing relationship work. They don't feel like they're an expert to be able to talk about money. So I know I've had many couples come to me and I've been able to help them in their marriage because we solved the big white elephant in the room, which is money.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree. That's something that I feel, to be completely transparent and honest with you, I have two kids. Me and their mother aren't together, and we split up. And in all honesty, I strongly feel like the main reason was financial stuff. You know what I mean? It was always like, no matter how hard I tried, or how hard we did our best to try and make things work, I felt like the main source of our problems and fighting and arguments and disagreements was always like a financial type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no way to go about it, or at least I couldn't find a way to go about it where it didn't come off, as much as I would try to, or she would try to, it always came off as if we were only focused on the money, and it wasn't really us. We just both knew that that's something that the other person would bring up every now and then, and we didn't know how to really talk about it without it coming out of our mouths as if like, oh, you're not giving enough or you're not doing enough, when in all honesty that wasn't really the thing. Is that we had a hard time just combining our stuff together and just admitting what we had a problem with financially, what we had a problem with spending on, or what we had a problem on saving, or what we had a problem on actually putting time into things that made us money instead of spending money, or using our time productively, whether it was in our relationship or financially. Like, it's one of those things that when one person's focused on one thing, the other's focused on the other, and we couldn't really find that common ground where we can just agree, like, okay, let's admit it. You're bad with saving, I'm bad with spending. You're like, and we couldn't agree because we just didn't want to admit that ourselves.
Right. Money. And the hard part with money too is sometimes our money problems are tied up with other personal matters. Like I
Yes.
know I've coached people, and when we finally got to the root of the money matter, it was that like trauma was their other traumas were connected to their money. They didn't want to look at their trauma and they didn't want to look at their money. And so having like physically helping them create mantras so that we could actually separate. No, it's safe to look at your money. You will feel better when you look at your money and you're dealing with it you know, every week or whatever we came up with for that person. Everybody should be looking at their money at different time periods, depending on, how much money you have and what you have to look at type thing. Um, so it's really interesting that money is a symptom of other things going on. It's usually not about the money. It's usually something else that's going on that usually drives money issues, or overspending is usually, a compensation for a whole bunch of reasons, that you can overspend. So really breaking down the reasons why you're overspending, and really delving into those, money wounds. You have money wounds and you got to heal your money wounds. And there's
True.
many ways to go at that.
True. And what I wanted to ask you next, you focus on helping clients achieve abundance, and could you just explain what abundance means to you in context and of financial planning?
Sure, sure. So abundance to me is not going to be what everybody else wants. So really my job is to get someone to really sit and think about what they want their life to be. So it's really not a one size fits all. This is really truly figuring out, helping them decide what they want their life to be. Um, and that's probably the hardest part. So the easier people to coach are the ones who know what they want. So if you're at point A and you want to get to point B, those are the easiest people to coach. The hardest people to coach are the ones that have no clue what point B looks like.
True.
So
I hear
point B is hard because if you haven't really taken the time to figure out what you want, which is what's it all about? Me. It's all about me.
you.
If you haven't taken that time to really think about what you want, then that's the problem. You need to really spend the time. What's going to bring you joy? So for me, I want to fill up my life with joy. So that's why I drink tea out of my teacup.
I love
Is because this is my joy factor, and I'm actually drinking my favorite tea, which is blueberry from Serendipity Teas. I don't get any
Sounds
sponsorship,
delicious though.
and it's yummy. It's very yummy. So there's no sugar, but it's super sweet and lovely. So that is one of my joy factors. So I'm sitting here in the office. I brew a pot of tea for myself and drink tea all day long. So it's part of my 1% better. How do I make my life more joy filled every single day? And that's basically what I do every single day. What can I do to make myself a little bit happier, a little bit, um, uh, everything working a little bit better? That's the name of the game. And I used to think like, oh, you want to do these light jumps into these massive, better situations. No, it's little baby steps every day that makes a difference.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think that's something that I struggle with myself also is the baby steps. I feel if I'm not making drastic changes right away, I feel like I'm not doing anything right or like I'm not going nowhere. Like I beat myself up. Like I'll have little wins here and there, but then I have the tendency of comparing it to other people. And I'll be like, you know what? I did this, but they did that. I could have did that. Why didn't I do it? And then I start getting in my head, you know what I mean? Going over analyzing stuff that in all honesty, I know I already told myself don't do that. And then I get right back into it all over again.
So one of the things to help people learn about themselves, there's two protocols that I would love people to get a little bit of information on. So all the personality tests out there are fabulous. So the Myers-Briggs, I like the Enneagram is another one. It's just wonderful. And then the other one is human design. There's so many personality tests out there, but taking them will help you get to know yourself, helping you. Lately I've gone down the rabbit hole of human design, and I'm a projector, and projectors are supposed to wait for invitations, but I'm a ego driven um, human projector, so that allows me to actually really lean in hard to what I want in life. And that's when life really flows for me, when I'm doing things that I love. So that's my whole mantra for me. That's my human design. So I encourage people to go figure out, what is your human design? How does that help me live a better life? Enneagram I'm also a number 2 on an Enneagram. A number 2 is a helper. And one of the things that helpers are supposed to do is also focus on their own life and making sure that they're not sacrificing their own happiness for other people. So really, truly, even though you're number 2, you should really be paying very strong attention to what you want in your life. So it's really important to get to know yourself. And we have so many great ways that you can do skills assessments and all kinds of amazing things to really delve deep into figuring out who you are and make it all about me.
Do you ever come across people who might think they know who they are, but they really don't, and then you find out that they're like and not delusional, but just misguided, or they just don't want to admit that they're not what they assume they are, or they're in the right position. Like they'll think like, oh, financially I'm okay, or mentally I'm okay in the sense that I'm alone and I don't need nobody, I don't
I
need help, and
usually
I know
have
it all.
I usually have so one of the fun ones that I did was someone came to see me because they were overspending, and they felt like they didn't have enough money to pay all their bills. And the good news is, once we sat down and did her budget, she actually had enough money. It was a timing thing. It was just all about, so she just needed to sit down and figure out, oh, if I pay this here and I pay this here, oh, it all works. And because with late fees and this and that, she wouldn't have enough money because she would constantly get the late fees because she would charge something too soon. She would, so once we got her set up in her budget and I told her she had enough money for everything, she was like, It was like the weight of the world had just been lifted off of her. So, a lot of people have misconceptions, or it's just not their cup of tea, sitting down and figuring out. That's what I do. I'm an accountant. I love to see the numbers and put it on a spreadsheet and figure it out for you. So it's just one of those things where letting other people help you where you are not strong. That's what it's about in life. And sometimes humbling ourselves, because people don't want to talk about money or share that they have money problems with the world. So I always joke, I don't know where I came up with this crazy idea. It would be really funny if everybody walked around with how much money they made on their forehead.
I hear
Wouldn't
you.
that be interesting? That would be really interesting, right?
There's actually, now that you mentioned that, there's this show that I watched. It's a show on Netflix. It's called Black Mirror, and there's this one episode where basically everyone has like a credit score, and this one lady's trying to get an apartment, but basically everything in the world, in this futuristic world, runs off of people's credit score between each other. So it's like she would meet someone and they would have a good conversation and they would give each other a rating before they left. And then based on her rating throughout the day, she got a credit score. And based on that credit score, she can afford a house or she can rent a car. And then little by little, she started having a bad day. And and it's something that people would just be able to point their phone at you and they would see your score. They would see if you cursed someone out during the day or if you left a
Wow.
bad comment. So it went from her being really good to then she couldn't get
Yeah.
the apartment. Then she was late to work. Then she bumped into someone and they spilled coffee. And so all of that was going bad.
Wow.
Then she tried going to rent a car, but then her credit score was bad, so she got a crappy car. Like it was like this
Oh my
whole,
gosh.
yeah, it was like a really bad thing. So that you mentioned that,
Oh,
it makes me think of
funny.
that. And I always wonder, like, how would people, would it really change the way people are with one another if they can really see not only just how much they make or how much they have, but also like a credit score between how they interact with other
Sure.
people, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Because we would see those quiet people who do so much for others that just don't, there's so many quiet, wonderful givers out there, that are just always doing for others and
Yeah.
not really taking care of themselves. And that's why I'm like, 2024, my two things I'm going to tell everybody, it's all about me and 1% better. That's it. That's the mantra that I'm just going to keep promoting every time I'm talking to people, is that it's really all about you and making sure you're following your passions, your dreams, and living a life that you want to live, you know?
I really like that because it's true. I don't believe enough people, not to be selfish, but I think a lot of people forget that they need to put themselves first, that they need to care about themselves. A lot of people just worry about everyone else, if they ate, if they slept, how they are, how they're feeling, if they're happy, if they're sad. And then at the end of the day, they're sitting there alone and they're stuck with all these thoughts or feelings. And they feel like, I'm the type of person that I feel like I could be there for other people, but I hate asking for other people to be there for me, because you feel like I just finished talking to you and telling you, yeah, you're okay, you're going to be fine. And then I feel like I can't ask that same person for advice. Like they just asked me for advice. They're going through something. How am I going to ask them, like, oh, can you listen to me now? Can you, like, you know what I mean? What do you tell people that, like, of course they have to be, think about themselves but what do you say to people who tend to feel like they have to just keep every problem or every issue that they have bottled up, and that they shouldn't share it? Like what's the advice you give to them?
Well, I mean, everybody has such an individual journey, but I have a really good friend who I bounce a lot of stuff off of, because my emotional home is everything's wonderful, and his emotional home is everything's going to fall apart. And
Wow.
so he's wonderful, because we actually bounce off each other really well. And it's really helped me be a better coach, because he's like, Deb, people can't hear that when you say they need to feel a little bit better. And I went, oh, okay. So let me see. So when somebody's a 2 on the abundance scale and they need to get to 2.1, it's really not about seeking joy. It's about seeking relief. What
True.
can you do to feel a little bit better from whatever's causing your harm? What can you do? So if you're in pain, what can you do to feel a little bit better from the pain? Or, are you taking, so, I love doing, so another thing you can do is body scans. Where do you feel pain? And, oh, what can I do about that pain? What steps can I do to take and be 1% better regarding whatever I felt in my body? So it's really, it's really about self-assessment. Gary Vee talks about it a lot as to how we really need to know who we are. Again, it's all about me. And it's through self-assessment. And we just don't do enough self-assessment. And this is where having relationships, finding a good friend that that you can do that back and forth for, that you develop a relationship and that you can have that, you just know that you can call them up and say, hey, this is what's going on, I need your feedback, and they're there for you, and vice versa, they're there for you when the other thing happens. So it's really important that we develop relationships that are two-way streets, or not. You have a one-way street to this person, and then they, you know what I mean? So it's just,
True.
it just
True.
makes it work. You just figure it out, so you help this person, and that person helps this person, and it all just comes full circle because everybody's helping everybody where their strengths are.
I agree with you. And also, like you mentioned, there's many other things out there like discords and other communities. And like the one that you mentioned before is like the Facebook one that I wanted to ask you about also, that there's many people that are willing to offer help and support, even if it's for free in these communities. I just feel like nowadays a lot of people don't know that these communities exist. If not, they tend to, there's like a, it's like when you hear NFTs, there's some people that they understand it and they get it, and there's other people when they hear it automatically they think scam. And I think it's the same thing when you hear about communities. Some people hear community and they're like, you know what, this is a chance for me to meet other like-minded people to bounce ideas off of or just get support. And then there's other people like, oh, this is just a community, this is just a group of people trying to sell me something. So it's hard to find those people who are willing to actually give it a chance without automatically just, I guess, judging it based on what they see, because the internet is crazy. The internet is always going to say there's so much of both sides that there's no, like, you always try to look for, okay, I'm going to go on there and I'm going to compare it to how many bad things are said compared to how many good things, and whichever one is more or less, I'm going to say, okay, I think more people are saying bad things about this, so it has to be true. But nowadays it's so hard because there's always such an equal amount of it that you really don't know which way to go. But what I wanted to ask you about your Facebook group is you have a Facebook group about abundance and accountability, and it sounds like it's a supportive community. How do you incorporate accountability into your coaching approach, and what are the benefits, and what benefits have you seen from this group dynamic?
Well, I'm looking for more people in that group, by the way. But anyways, when I have had, I've run small groups for accountability, and it's amazing. The group synergy is Groups are just so powerful because usually what someone else is going through usually solves there's just an amazing dynamic that happens when a group gets together somehow energetically. The advice from one person fits everybody else. I'm not really sure why that happens or how it happens, but it's really amazing. So I've run some beta groups for my abundance accountability, and it's amazing on the synergies that come from group dynamics. I know that for me, when I had, if it wasn't for VFriends, I would have never known about Discord. And Discord's just an amazing community. I have several out there now that I go and I talk to. I have like-minded people that I can go and just, when I have even 5-10 minutes, I just go out there and have a conversation with whoever's in there, whoever's hanging out. And it's just a pleasant way to connect with people when you have that downtime. And that's how I look at it. Now I lost track of the question.
No, it's just so basically, how do you incorporate accountability into your coaching approach?
So of course when you're coaching with me, you're going to see me on a regular basis. So basically we're going to say this is what you're going to get done for the next time. So basically accountability is showing up as to whatever I needed you to do. Usually whenever you're coaching with me, it's we just have the next step. So there's always a next step of this is what we're working on next. And usually I work with mantras, and I want them to do the abundance scale every day. I think really leaning into how do you get 1% better? The abundance scale every day. So that's my way of thinking about it. Because if you don't know where you're at, how do you get better?
True.
You don't know. So you don't
True.
really. So really saying, where am I at on the abundance scale in this very moment? And then knowing, okay, no judgment, just data. I am a 5. Okay, what do I need to do today to just, by the end of the day, to get to 5.1? What would I need to do to just get a little bit better? And I think the more people that can actually take the time to do that little baby step will feel a million times better.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's that's just hard. Like the more and more I hear you speak, I'm trying to just take everything you're saying and just put it to myself. And the only thing that keeps coming up that I know that I have a hard trouble with is just self-assessment, self-evaluation.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't want, like I mentioned, like I don't want to admit that there's something wrong, whether it's hard-headedness or stubbornness or
Yeah,
just cocky or whatever you want to look at it
all the
as.
above, yeah.
I just feel like it combined. But then there's also those days where I'm like, oh, you got to stop this and just get over it. But then every now and then it's like, oh, nope, don't worry, you got it. Meanwhile,
Okay,
everything's falling apart, and
I
you're like,
got a good book for you. Ready? It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Michael Singer. It's a wonderful book, and basically they want you to untether yourself from just everything that no longer serves you, whether it's emotions or thoughts and it's just a really fabulous way to shift your mindset. So The Untethered Soul is wonderful. I highly recommend that for clients. It is a very deep philosophical book, but it is it's life changing. If you have intrusive thoughts, it's wonderful. If you have thoughts that constantly are going in your brain, it's a wonderful one to really get you to listen to. So the noisy brain one, that's your ego. You're really listening. You want to hear the whispers of your heart.
yes,
That's the me.
yes,
That's what you want to hear. Is it's all about me. That's the whispers. Those are the little insights. You are the observer of all those thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You're the observer of all your thoughts. And that's what the untethered soul gets into, is how you are more than just your thoughts. And your thoughts can be wrong. Your thoughts are not accurate. Um, but maybe you could have a brilliant one. Maybe something good drops in, but that's probably more of the whispers of the heart. And so you need to be the observer and the judger of, which ones of those really feel right for me? And it's really about your own observer and leaning into who you are as me, knowing you, really figuring that out. So that and it's a process, it's a journey. Nothing is, I'd say it's easy for me to do the abundance scale now for me because I've been doing it for years. But starting on the journey of self-assessment is hard because you have to say, where am I at? And I'll have people, and sometimes we have to pull the scale apart, because sometimes people have a scale of a 10. They show up in my office, they look like they got all of their stuff together, but then we talk about finances and there are 2.
gotcha. And
Maybe
now, being that you mentioned finances, like as someone who's deeply involved in tax planning and coaching, what common misconception do you encounter about personal finances and tax management, and how do you address them with people?
So I think one bank account is a big mistake. You need many bank accounts. And depending on how much money you have, you probably need a lot more than you have. Um, to make life like my favorite example is, someone who has just one bank account and they have so many transactions that they don't even see that someone has stolen some money from them.
True.
You know what I mean? Because they can't weed their way through. I had someone that recently set up a budget with me, and I think she's up to 7 accounts right now.
Wow.
But because she had 7 accounts, she knew when fraud came through, because she's like, that account shouldn't be negative. That account should be perfect.
True.
And she could easily go there, spot it, report it, and she was good to go again. So it's just one of those things where she said if it was before our budget time, she wouldn't have even noticed it. She
And when you say multiple bank accounts, do you mean like a checking, a savings,
Nope,
and like
nope. I'm
an
talking all checking. So basically, the way I set up someone's budget is that you have your main income account. So I like people to be able to see how much money they make. So the only thing that goes into that account is your paycheck or your distributions from your business or whatever wherever you get your source of income. That account only holds the ins so that you can see it. It actually holds it. And then that account transfers to all your other accounts. So then
Gotcha.
then from there you have a bill account that you pay all your bills out of. And sometimes you have to have multiple bills accounts depending on how many bills and blah 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 blah. You have a subscriptions account so that you can keep an eye on the ones that may need to be canceled. So you only have, so you have only them in there. So it's really easy. Oh yeah, I don't need that anymore. It's easy to cancel. Then you have, if it's a husband and wife, they each need their own spending account. And then sometimes we throw in a grocery account so that they have money set aside for groceries. They have and then pet account. Sometimes the largest pet account I had was they had to fund it about $1,000 a month to fund their pet account because that was what it kept
That's
destroying them.
crazy. Yeah.
Destroying them was their pet account, their pet expenses. And then some other ones we have like an escrow account where you have quarterly bills, so you have to save up. So you take a portion of every paycheck and put it in there so that when the quarterly bill comes, the money's already sitting there.
Gotcha.
So
And
those,
would you say like this is something that you would do across? Because I'm one of the people, I only have one account, so this is something that I'm like, now you got me scared and nervous because I'm not gonna lie, I've had a time where I I guess you could say I got scammed or whatever it was, and I didn't notice it was like right around the time of like the beginning of the hype of NFTs and all that. And I noticed that like for whatever reason, one day my account like $100 was missing.
oh,
And I was like, yo, this is maybe it's just my bill. And then a couple days went by, then it was $400 that went missing.
oh
And
no.
then I was like, what's going on? And then I kept thinking, being that it was the summer and NFTs and stuff, and I was getting real like, happy, like just buying NFTs and stuff. I was like, yo, maybe it's just I'm not noticing how much
Oh no.
ETH I'm spending or something like that. And then one day out of nowhere, it was like fucking 1,500. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know I didn't do this. So like I went in it and I looked. And when I started looking, it wasn't that they took the whole chunk of 1,000 and something. It was literally a whole
Little.
bunch of small transactions of like $60,
Yes,
$80,
that's what
90.
they do.
And it was like spread out that I couldn't notice because when I was looking at my thing, I would see my regular stuff of what I was paying on my bills and when I bought food or food shopping. But then every now and then there'd be this one random thing of $60 and another one $80. And it all accumulated by the end of the week to like $1,000. And it was all because I had all my information all over the place and I couldn't tell where the hell this was coming from. So now that you mention it, I'm like, you know what? Even after that happened, I still only have one account. Like, yeah, I have my checking and my savings, and then I also got a what is it called? So I could buy like stocks and stuff.
Like a brokerage account.
Yeah, I had a brokerage account, and so like but I only had it in one bank account, like one main bank. So what I want to ask is like, is it because in my mind, again, I'm really not educated when it comes to this. I'm really basic. Like you just work, you have one bank account, you have like your debit card, credit card, whatever. Is it okay? Like I'm the type of person that believes it's not okay to have several bank accounts because your information's everywhere. Again, I don't know. So I want to be properly informed.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having multiple bank accounts. I mean, I use it as a tool, kind of like the envelope approach. Remember how people used to put money,
Yes.
take your cash out and you put it in the envelope. So
Yes.
I'm using the bank accounts like envelopes. So basically, we set it up. So I help people set up their budget. So this is what you use each one of these accounts for.
Gotcha.
So that's basically what I do to help people manage their money easily. And it's a set it and forget it method. So basically, you get paid check on Friday. All your money then funds your accounts, and you know exactly what you can spend because you already know that this amount of money is going to your. One of my current clients was we set up her budget, and she's like, "I'm so excited that I know what I can buy for clothes now," because she has a clothes account. So if there's not enough money in their clothes account, she doesn't buy anything. But if there's money
Gotcha.
in there, she can buy it. But before, she would just constantly buy because she just, sure, I got the money, I'm just going to buy. But
True.
it just wasn't true because she was running up credit card debt. And I'll just say this now: credit cards are evil.
Trust
If
me,
you
I believe in that. I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way.
if you cannot honestly pay it off at the end of the month, you should not be using them. They are
100%.
evil. Do not use them. They are
100%.
absolutely. I do not take them in my practice. Rarely will I take it in my practice. I decided I'm not going to add to the credit card phenomenon in my CPA practice. I just don't take it. We do e-checks because I just didn't want to be. Helping people solve the credit card problem. The last thing I want to do is be
Exactly.
charging their credit cards and making more problems.
Exactly. I agree with you.
So it was one of those things where no, it's just not allowed to. Yeah, I don't take credit cards in my CPA practice just for that reason, because it's just ridiculous that I then have to help people. And I help people get out of the credit card debt issue, and then usually they come back around again. They do it again, but usually the second time they learn. Usually the second
Yeah.
time when we have to refinance or do something to get them out of it, we get them so that they're not doing it again. But it's a tough lesson to learn. It's so easy to swipe. It's just so easy.
It is, and especially nowadays with things like Apple Pay, where you just ding, ding, and just you just gotta tap and keep it moving. Like it gets pretty addicting because you don't really notice. Like you'll go and you'll pay $6 here and $4 there and 12, and then at the end of the day, it comes out you spent like $300, and you're like, hold on, I didn't. Just because your mind is thinking like you just spent little fractions of money, not knowing that everything is really adding up. And then, it's always like $4 and change, and you don't know that change is like rounding up. And so I agree with you. I'm one of those people that have a hard time with that too. When I had a credit card, I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what was going on. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, I got to prove of $5,000. Yeah, that's fine. And I was spending money. I was like, don't worry, I'll just pay it back or I'll make it. And then little by little, it starts getting out of hand. And little do you know that $5,000 credit card comes into like a $10,000 debt that you owe. And it gets really overwhelming. It could really not just, I, I, I don't know. I'd like to say kind of almost ruined my life because it got me to the point where I was so focused on paying that off that I totally forgot that I had other normal daily bills and expenses that I was just so focused. Oh, I got to get the credit card done and credit. But it was like, it was no way I could catch up. I was stuck in this back and forth, check to check, never ending loop that I felt like I was never going to get out of. And it took a long time. But I learned the hard way. So I do agree with you that credit cards are just evil, and I stay away from that myself. Also, I cut all mine up after I took care of them. I got rid of them. I burned them in the backyard in my little fire pit. And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
yes, I was like,
That's
never
the best.
again.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Literally.
I uh, the latest client, they put them all away in a drawer because they like literally they're like, how did we do this again? How did we get back to, they had cleared them all up, and then they're like, how did we do this again? And I'm like, it's just one of those things where the 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 spending wounds or the money wounds that you have, whether it's because you're stressed and I deserve this,
Yes.
or there's just there's a myriad of reasons why people overspend, and that's where you got to do it's all about me and take the time to figure out what's going on, and really do the self-assessment. What is going on? Why am I charging this? And should I be charging this? And again, there's no judgment. It's all data. And what can I do to do 1% better? Because we all want to judge and go to shame and all, and it's just not helpful.
Yes.
It's not helpful. The shame and judgment stuff, it doesn't. And so that's one of the first things I tell clients is that, when they're down in the ones and twos of the abundance scale, I'm like, there's no shame here. There's no judgment. Everybody has a time in their life where there's a financial issue, and it's time just to take the baby steps to get back to where you want to be. And it just starts with the next baby step. That's all.
I agree with you. Could you share a memorable success story you have from a client that you work with that you gave guidance to who made a significant difference in their life financially and well-being?
Yeah, I had a client, a couple, who they make about $200,000, and she came to me telling me that on a Tuesday she couldn't buy coffee. She had to wait till Friday for her paycheck to come. They had a negative bank account, and she literally couldn't buy coffee. So she
I've
came
been
to me with a 0 on her abundance scale.
I've been there before.
Today she has 150,000 in her bank account.
Nice.
And when she had a goal of getting to 100,000, and when she got to 100,000, I sent her a mug that says, "I have 100,000 reasons to save."
Yes. Nice. I love that.
So it's just really to go, and she was really hard to pull up above 5. So we spent a lot of time on mindset. lot of time on mindset. We didn't, I helped her get her budget together. I helped her get her being able to pay bills and whatever, just do the basics. But we really spent a lot of time on mindset. It was really, and one of her biggest things that helped her take a leap, and this might help some people out there too, is that she was driving a car that was like 4 or 5 years old and still had a car payment on it. So she was paying like $300 a month for a car that also needed repairs and that she hated. So here she is driving a car that she drives every day to work that she hated, that just really just stole joy from her every single day. So we said, why don't you go see what you can get for a lease? See if you can get a lease for $300 a month and get a car you like. She could. Brand new spanking car, $300 lease. Loves it. Is, just constantly, I think every 2 to 3 years, whatever, I don't know what she does. Every 2 to 3 years she gets the same car or whatever again, brand
Yes.
new. No repair bills because it's a new car. And
Yeah.
she loves it. Oh my God. So it's like it really propelled her up the abundance scale. I don't remember it now how high it went, but it was one of those things where it's like, and then we talked about, well, what else brings you down? What else could we get relief from? Because she's down in the lows. What do you need relief from? Well, Deb, I have a hole in my kitchen floor that every time I pass it, it just, it really just, ugh, I have this hole that I can't afford to repair. And so we figured it out that she could actually go and get a home equity line to get her kitchen redone. And again, little things that she could afford that she could actually move up the abundance scale. So it's just really one of those things where you're really thinking about doing that self-assessment, figuring out what is it that I want, and it's 1% better. Those are the two major points of how to really make a life you love, is just really focusing on you and what you want out of life, and doing that hard work. And it's not easy,
Oh
but
no,
it's well
it's
worth
not.
it.
Because I'm going to be honest, everything that you're talking about falls in the line of either a time I've been in that position myself at some point, or I feel like I'm in that position now because I know, like, I have a car and it's a 2019 Kia, but I pay a lot for it every month and then insurance and everything like that. And right now, it's like I finally just got a new job and it's decent pay. I start in like a week. I've been looking
Yeah.
like crazy. Yes, so I'm really happy about that. And for a long time, what I did was, because my previous job that I had to leave just because scheduling and everything. And I'm a single father of 2 kids. So my main thing was trying to work and balance that with being there for my kids. I have this thing, like, whether it's anxiety or stress or whatever it is, I just overthink about not being there for my kids. So I try to just pick them. I drop them off every morning in school. I pick them up afterwards. I spend time with them doing homework, and me and their mother aren't together. So I try my best to balance the time where they know I'm there for them at the same time where they don't feel like I'm neglecting them, because I used to be a workaholic. I had a time where me and their mother were going through some stuff, and due to court, everyone goes through that stuff at some point when they're in a relationship. And I couldn't see my kids for a while because we were working out details on custody and all this stuff like that. And that whole time, the only thing I could do, because I was always overthinking about my kids, was work. So I went and I got literally 3 jobs. I worked one early in the morning until like 3 in the afternoon. And then right after, I'd go work another one from 5 until like 1 in the morning, which was kitchen work. And then in between, coming to and from my job, I would, like, as a side hustle, I'd stop at gas stations and I'd clean the bathroom and they'd pay me for that. So I was like, I got so addicted to, like, making money, but it wasn't even about making money. It was about spending my time doing stuff where I wouldn't focus on what are my kids doing, where are they, so I became a workaholic. I was just addicted to it because it was what was helping me numb the fact that I couldn't be with my kids at the time. And like I said, the main thing that I felt like what drove me and their mother to split up was money. So I was like, maybe if I get all this money, I can fix things. And if I spend, but then it got to the point that when all of that was said and done and I was able to see my kids again, it took a while for me to really let go of the working nonstop 24/7 like whole habit. That when I did stop that and I went down to just one job, I started feeling really worthless. I started feeling like my value went down and I'm like, I'm not making enough and this isn't good enough. And so I took a break from work. I had all this money saved up from working so much that I was like, you know what? I don't want to work. I didn't have enough where I could be like, oh, screw everything.
Right, right,
But
right.
at the time I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna work for a bit and I'm gonna live off of my savings. And even if it's for 6 months or whatever, I just want to focus on being there for my kids.
Right.
Even if it's just for an extra hour or something, that's all I wanted to do. It kind of screwed me in the end because I ended up running through everything. I was so happy with spending the time with my kids. I wasn't noticing again what was happening with my money. I was like, it's just going every day. They instead of cooking food at home, I was with my kids. You guys want pizza? You guys want McDonald's? You guys. So it started snowballing and snow. But it got to the point that I went from being addicted and focused on making money and working so much just to be occupied that I got to the point that I was just focused on spending time and spending money. And it's even now, and I find a hard time balancing or finding that sweet spot in between that where I can make good money and still spend a good amount of time with my kids. And it's now that I really started finding a passion in podcasting and talking to other people, like literally being that I'm always trying to think of the next big thing or my next move, I literally don't talk to no one or see no one. I have like no social life. What I do podcasting is the only time literally I'll talk to somebody. So it's
Yep.
like I always try my best to just learn as much as I can, focus on bettering my communication skills, my listening skills, and improving all of that. But at the same time, I also have it in the back of my head like, you're not making money. And what bothers me is that I got to the point where it's like I don't care about money. Like all the
Yeah,
ideas I
yeah,
have of doing stuff, like I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
look
yeah.
at it like it's not important, you know?
Right. Well, this is where, really defining what do you need to have a happy life. So figuring out what that number is. So what is the number that makes you have a comfortable life? I call it getting out of the painful zone. So literally, what is that number? So find that number and then shoot for it so that you can live a comfortable life and then just let it be on autopilot so you can go enjoy life. So that you can literally, you know, I call it the set and forget it method, where you're literally earning money and it pays all your bills and you know exactly what you can spend, because there's a freedom to spend when you know how much to spend.
True.
So if you know that you have, so I had one couple that one earner, the wife was staying home with the kids, so he was the only one working. So things were tight. So they had $50 a week that they could spend on outside eating. So they were like, okay, with only $50, maybe instead of going to the pizza place and paying $50 for pizza, why don't we try to make pizza, from the grocery store?
Hmm.
Well, they they called me up so elated because they paid only $10 to make pizzas at home.
Yep.
The kids had a blast. They invited their friends over, so they had pizza for not only their family but the other family, and everybody had so much fun
I
that
love
that's
that.
the new thing. So now they have $40 extra that they can spend on another outing or whatever they want. So without knowing how much they could spend, they spent more than they should have. But once they knew they only had 50, they were responsible and accountable to what should I spend that money on.
That's what I need to work on. I have a hard time. And that I hope you don't mind. I'm definitely because like I've been waiting. I've been waiting to like this job that I got. I'm really happy. It's like I don't know what happened. It's a blessing in disguise. I got there. I didn't think I was going to get it. And it went from me thinking I was going to get paid something like minimum wage to they surprised me with something else. And I was totally like, I was like, wow, like I needed this. And then they went on, yeah, but then you have kids. They're like, we have benefits for this and we pay for camp and we pay for like, so it was like an amazing thing. So now, as soon as I walked out of there, I was so happy, but then I got nervous right away because I started thinking, I was like, all right, I can't mess this up. Right now I'm going to be getting paid good money. And the first thing in my head is like, I'm going to get all this money and I can fix all these problems and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, am I really going to do it? Am I really going to fix these problems? Am I really going to save money? Am I really going to budget? Am I really, because I don't know if anyone else is like that. I'm the type of person that I'm always like, if I just get this job and I get paid good, I promise
Yeah.
I'm going to
Right, right. So that's where you actually need to work with someone on your budget. So
yes.
literally, so if you're not a good person to do numbers on a spreadsheet, go find somebody who is. You don't have to pay me as a coach to do it. Go find someone. I know you know someone in your community that probably knows how to do a budget and that can actually help you do it.
But what do you say to someone? Because my problem is like, I know people, but again, complete transparency, I'm embarrassed to sit and either to admit or to show, like, look,
Mhm.
this is my bank account. I'm horrible with money. You get what I'm saying? So
Oh
what do
yeah,
you?
this is why money is one of the taboo topics. We're not supposed to
Yep.
talk about it.
Yep.
So it's definitely, but yeah, why not? I mean, you know, and until we get vulnerable with someone, we don't really make a friend. Until you
True.
actually have that connection with someone to say, "Hey, this is me. This is the authentic me." That's what really makes relationships, is when you can really become authentic and really share your vulnerabilities. Um, Daring Daring Greatly by Brene Brown is a great book for really leaning into. For me, when I read it, um, it made me realize that I could actually go back out there into the dating realm, because I had already suffered huge amounts of losses, and I could actually handle doing it again. I could actually do that again, because I've done so much in my past that, yeah, it's going to hurt, but I could get over it if my heart got broken again. It's one of those things where you can, Daring Greatly is really an amazing book to help you move forward if you're looking to do something big. And I might as well share, like, one of the things that I really want to do long term is develop, really take my abundance scale and allow many coaches to use it. So someday I hope to have 1,000 coaches using the abundance scale and teaching so many people how to just do finances in a better way. And, not really, there's no right way, but a better way, so that they have control of their money, have freedom to spend up to how much they have. They know how much they have. They can have tools to really be able to manage their money and live a joyful life. You don't have to have a lot of money to live a joyful life. You just really have to, you know, be accountable to the resources you have.
True. And like I mentioned, I'm definitely gonna be bothering you. I'm definitely gonna reach out
You're not a bother.
because I truly now that this is happening, like I really, from the community and everything, I have so many people that are always offering to help. And again, I'm one of those people that I have a really hard time asking for help or accepting help because I feel I don't like to be a bother. And again, it's one of those things that I feel like if someone helps me, I have to figure out a way to give them something in equal or greater value in return, because then I feel like I'm just taking. And that's something that like I have a hard trouble with. But I definitely want to do that. But before I get on that, like with anyone else, either if it's me or anyone else that you work with, what's the first thing that you think they need to really get a hold of before they contact you and before they go on the abundance scale? What's the first thing you think they should really focus on? And besides for what they want to do, is there anything else that's more deeper or more complicated or complex that you feel they should get a hold of or clear out of their mind or their habits or anything like that before they reach out to you, that you feel that they need to do themselves on their own? Because I know like we can always reach out to people and talk, but I also know that there's things that we have to do ourselves that we can't. There's certain parts of our journey we have to do alone. We can't do with other people. Is there anything that you?
I totally disagree. I actually think
Okay.
that I think in order to discover yourself, you actually have to be in community. I think it's really important that you're in relationship with others, and that you're doing, um, you have to listen to yourself, but sometimes we need people to reflect back to us what's going on. So, as far as the only thing that, when someone wants to seek a coaching relationship, so if someone wants to be coached, they just got to be willing to be coached. That's it. They have to show up ready for information and ready to do what the coach says,
True.
and ready to be honest with the coach. Because I've actually had some people that weren't quite honest in the beginning, and it wasn't like they were lying to me, but they said that they would do things and then they didn't. And so I had to like call them out on it. Like, how come you didn't go do what we said? So it's like one of those things where the
True.
more honest and the more vulnerable you can be, the better coach I could be. Or any coach, anybody that you show up to, the more vulnerable you can be, the more honest, and say, this is where I struggle. Can you help me overcome this struggle, which is XYZ, whatever it is. So really being honest and open is the best way to do it, and to be willing. Because one of my coaches, Rochelle Indra. If you don't follow Rochelle Indra, Coach Rochelle Indra is, I think, on, I forget, I think on Instagram, Coach Rochelle Indra. She also has a podcast that's called "The Shit They Should Have Taught You in School but Didn't."
Okay. I
And
love that.
And my favorite one is the mystery podcast.
Okay.
The mystery podcast. So that's my favorite one. So go check out the mystery podcast. But she has a saying that oh shoot, she has a saying that oh no, what were we just talking about? Oh shoot.
That the she had a podcast that the shit people should have told you about or something like
Yeah,
that.
but we talked right before that. We were talking about how oh yes, because so she's a coach. So she says that sometimes when we're not ready to address an issue, we have the ability to say, I'm not ready to deal with that. So if you've got trauma in your past and you're not ready to deal with that, that's a good decision to make, that you're not ready. You put it on the shelf and say you'll deal with that later. It's not time. So maybe you're having money troubles, but you're not quite ready to deal with it. So don't go seek out a coach until you're ready. That would be my advice, is it only come to the coach when you're ready, because that makes the job so much easier for you and the coach to just dive right in and get it fixed, to take the baby steps. So it's all about me and 1% better.
I hear you on that.
It's
Um,
just baby steps.
what I wanted to ask you next, and what I wanted to get a little bit into, because I see you have the VFriend cards in the back and everything like that.
Yes.
How because you mentioned that you didn't you learned about Discord through VFriends and everything like that. What was your entry into VFriends or NFTs and that whole space? Like, how did you just get involved in that, especially being that you're into like finances and everything like that? Because again, like I mentioned, whenever anyone hears NFTs, automatically they think scam and everything. What was your approach to it, or what was your entry into it?
So a couple of things all came together. I had a client that was investing in crypto, so that piqued my interest. Oh, crypto, what's this thing? And then somebody else had mentioned, oh, Gary Vee is really good about marketing and business and blah blah blah. And so I started following Gary Vee. And so when Gary Vee started mentioning NFTs and crypto, I kind of was paying attention. It was tax weekend that he launched the V Friends One, and I learned about it right before it was going to launch, and I didn't have enough time to go figure out a wallet and crypto. I didn't have enough time. And when I saw what happened, I was like, oh my God, the next thing that Gary Vee says, I'm doing. It doesn't
Yep.
matter what he says. I'm going to do it. So he told me to buy 12 books, 10 books, whatever he told me
Yeah,
to
it was the 12. Yeah, I think it was 12. I did the same thing too.
12. It was 12 because 12 and a half. So I bought the books and was all in. I just was all in. And then my favorite funny story is, uh, I had no idea that ETH was worth what it was. I had no clue. So I thought that I could get a black cat for $83. 83
Oh
ETH.
man.
So I funded my wallet with $83. and, I tried to go buy the black cat. And it just so happened my daughter walked by right as I did that. She's like, Mom, you're missing a whole bunch of money. You to buy that. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to need 83 ETH or whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
It was just really funny. That was my oh no moment.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted a black cat. Like, who
Yeah,
doesn't want a black
exactly.
cat, right?
Yep.
I was like, $83, I can afford that. So
And what would you say is like, besides for just like the whole ETH thing and everything and the community and the NFTs and the art and everything, a lot of people look at it like they saw what Gary was drawing and they're like, all right, why are people paying for this? What was it that made you say, you know what, I want to get in it? Besides for what Gary said and you seeing the potential in the
yeah.
crypto space and value and everything, what was it that got you to be like, you know what, this community? Because at the time there were so many NFT projects and communities at the stuff. A lot of them aren't around anymore.
Yep. Yep.
But what was it that got you to stick with VFriends?
It was probably that I found ViewFriends right after I lost my husband, and being in general chat was a saving grace for me. I mean, so 24/7, if I felt sad or felt the grief, I could jump into general chat and say, "Hey guys, I don't feel good. This, I'm down tonight," and there'd be so many people lifting me up and just having chats with me and making me feel better. General chat for that first year was just amazing. The people, the deep relationships. Who would ever thought I'd have online friends
Yeah,
all
yeah,
around the world? All around the world. I never
yeah.
wanted to
I
travel.
agree.
I was like, oh, I'm just going to stay in the U.S. forever. And then I'm like, oh my God, I got friends in Australia. I got, Danny
Yep,
Meadows. We're all going to go visit Danny Meadows in New Zealand. And, it's just like, why not? I mean,
yep.
it's just amazing when you think about um, all the people all around the world. And I have people in Seattle I want to go see. And, so there's just so many people all around the world that they're V friends that are going to, just going to be like open arms. To say, yeah, sure, come see me, So and to me, I never wanted to travel. And then I was like, oh, but when you get to know people in certain countries, then it's like you want to go see where they live and how, their culture and all that. So that
Yep.
to me um, was definitely amazing when I thought about and how the Discord is so international. It's just wonderful.
And what would you say to anyone who questions like joining communities or discords or even like the Facebook group? Like, because like I mentioned before, a lot of people hesitate to get in those either because they're embarrassed or they just don't. Because I'm for one never would have thought that I would be as active as I am in the community in the sense of speaking with other people because I always look at it like it's like you said, I never would have thought I would have these online friends,
Mhm.
especially because I have more people that I feel close to in this community online that I speak to in DMs and Twitter and Instagram. And it's just weird because I never would have thought that. I always, you know what I mean? No one, at least me, when it came up, I'm like, these are just strangers. Like, I don't, why am I gonna say so much to these people? And then I don't know how, but Gary just found a way to crack the code where it's just like you literally just expose everything and you're willing to be just like, here I am, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and and, and it's hard.
I think V friends really know how to show up with their authentic self. I mean, you look at all our streaming buddies of Tom and Josh, and Jay and Chels and uh, Rob. It's just amazing on how they just show up as their authentic self every day online. It's just awesome. I just, so it's just a wonderful community, and to hear Tom say "Diamond Deb's" in the chat, it's just, it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just that's what it's all about. So, yeah, that's what it's all about. Is just having that, little bit of community that, just, and I don't know. I think Gary has a lot of values. I think 12 and a half, showing all those values that he did in that book really brought a whole community together in a way. And the VCons, like he said, makes it like family reunion. So you have a way to get together and see all those friends that you made online,
True.
and make more friends from that. So, I'm looking forward to LA and just having a great time at VCon. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast is I'm going to apply for the speakers um,
Yes, yes,
application. So that was the reason why I was like, okay, time to get out there so I can prove that I can speak on a stage.
yes,
Because what is it all about? It's all about me. I'm
yes.
1% better. That's my whole mantra. That's what I'm going to speak about. I have tons of stories to really land why we're supposed to really stay focused on self. What is it that I want in life? And then how do I do that 1% better every day using my abundance scale? That's basically.
And I love that. I love that you're taking something that you created and you're using it to share it with other people to help them improve their lives in some way. I feel like we don't have enough people doing that. A lot of people, like I say, they crack the code or they find something and it used to be a thing where back in the day everyone would just like to gatekeep and not say nothing, and it's like we got to be quiet, there's not enough to go around, and it's like little by little you start noticing there's enough for everybody, there's no
There's
need to like
more than
hold.
enough.
Yes, man.
There's
And
more than enough. Yes.
there's a good reward. I didn't know this until the V Friends community. There's such a reward. There's such a I don't even know what it is. Like you, I had Soggy on here the other
Yeah,
a
so
few
it's
days ago. Yes, and he even said it like he had this feeling where he gave someone something and he gave him like a VCon ticket. I think it was Rob or somebody,
awesome.
and he's like the feeling I got was just crazy. He
Mhm.
goes, I didn't get any money out of it. I didn't get. He goes, it just felt good to give somebody something. And in all honesty, I feel the same way in the sense that it wasn't until this community that I went out of my way to start like just giving people things for free. And I would buy V friend merch and stuff and just send it to them because I know they wanted it, or little figures or plushies. And at first I would think of it like, oh, like I'm spending this money on this and how am I? But then it got to the point where it's like, yo, I really don't care. Like those people would DM me back and be like, yo, I really appreciate this, or this made me happy today, or this put a smile on my face, or I gave the plushie to my son and I couldn't afford it. And this, like, it's a whole bunch of little things that when it comes into it, you're like, yo, you don't even know how much impact the smallest little gesture could do to someone who's going through something. Like there's so many people who are battling with stuff mentally, physically, financially, whatever it is, that they keep it to themselves and they don't share it. And I feel like this community's gotten people to be vulnerable and share that. And it's been such a relief to find that, because like I mentioned, I always felt for the longest time that I had to be a person to keep things to myself and bottle it up, and I couldn't share it because if I did, it was a sign of weakness, or it would devalue, like, if, like I said, like I would always try to give advice to people. I'm the type to give advice, but I can't take my own advice. And then I feel like if I gave someone advice and then I would try to ask for some advice back, it would devalue what I just told them, because they'd be like, you just got me all hyped up to do this and now you're like, they're like, what's going on, you know?
I really, one of the things that accounting taught me is that I don't know everything there is to know about accounting. There always will be another problem to solve, or there will be always some other new tax thing that I didn't know about that will suddenly show up. So, even, as someone who's been doing tax returns for 30 years, it's one of those things where there's always something new to learn. So, why are we so worried about, you know, um, saying the right thing or being an expert, so it's all about levels, it's, so I'm level 55, and, I know a little bit more because I've just lived a little bit longer than you. Do you know what I mean? So it's just really about just honoring where you're at right now in this moment, and not really, I mean, um, there's a really good book by Gabby Bernstein. I think it's called Judgment Detox. So if you do a lot of judgment of people, that's a great one to read, to really rid yourself of judgment of yourself, judgment of others, and just really letting go of all that just comparison, and again, just really clearing out and untethering yourself from stuff that just doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve helping you live a more abundant life, and really leaning into, um, just going after what you really want. So it's all about me and 1% better.
Yes, I love that. I need to make a shirt out of that or something too. I really love that. I really love that.
It's all about me. Yeah. So, and I love Megan Trainor's I Love Me song. I danced to that for like probably all of 2023, the I Love Me song. It is so powerful to learn to love yourself,
Yes,
really digging in to say, right here, right now, with all my flaws, everything, I love myself right where I'm at. And the more you can do that and be, and I hate when people are humble when they really shouldn't be. Like, I hate that. It's just, you need to have humbleness, but yet you also need to honor who you are and your skill set, right? You
yes,
have to say, like, I have a lot of knowledge to share because I've lived it. I'm an expert in finances because I help people all the time with their money. That's what I do. And so it's one of those things where I'm not going to be humble about it because I have information to share.
I agree
But,
with you.
but there'd be other areas that I won't know anything about, like movies. I can't pull out movie star names or song names, or, so I'm terrible at trivia, those kind of things. So it's, everybody has their skills to share. And
Yo,
that's what makes community so powerful, is that we all lean into our strengths, and that's where we share. We just, do the whole sharing thing and making sure that we're supporting our community. It's just really nice. It's really fun.
yeah, I feel the same way too about that. It took me a while to really accept that in my head. I used to feel like, you know what? I used to be the type of person, I know everything, no one can teach me nothing. Whatever it is, I could learn how to do it and do it better than anyone else. And it's like it took a lot of like time for me to notice, brother, you were wrong. Like you don't know what you're doing. There's always someone that's better than you. You can always learn more. You can always improve.
Yeah,
Like it took a
yeah,
while.
that ego voice, so usually I'm dealing with a lot more women that have to be built up, and sometimes men have to, and I love books because books can bypass the ego. So that's where reading and listening can actually get through to the ego. Sometimes the ego likes to block out hearing other people, But I love why, that's why reading and listening is so powerful, because it actually can get inside into the subconscious that can actually, create more conscious living, living a conscious life of making conscious decisions. That's why I love doing the daily self-assessments, because it helps you to live a more conscious life and making decisions instead of, you know, instead of just going and watching TV when you get home from work. Make a decision. I'm going to go watch TV because I want to actually go and numb out from my day because it was very stressful, instead of just doing it without any thought process. So just more data, no judgment, just data. What am I doing? Is this what I want to be doing? Or would I rather be, instead of sitting in front of the TV, doing a side hustle or coloring or creating stuff, or who knows, making, you have a side gig that you want to do. Who knows? There's so many things that, that we don't take the time to self-assess and say, hey, what is it that I really want to do with my time?
Yep, I hear you.
I like, one of the things that I love to have people do is to do an ideal week. So you go in and I have if anybody's interested, DM me. I have a wonderful Excel. Of course, I have an Excel file as an accountant. So I have an Excel file that I created that you can actually fill in of your ideal week, so that you can figure out how much time you have. Because sometimes we have a scarcity mindset. I just don't have enough time. And when you actually go look at it, you have plenty of time.
I agree.
So it's one of those things where you can take away a lot of excuses. One of my excuses for not exercising was I don't have enough time. And it's really about putting the big rocks in first. You gotta just you gotta be a planner, and, making sure that you plan your time so that you know what you're working on. If exercise is important, that you put that big rock in first. If so really, and in spending time with your kids, put that rock in first. So it's like that comes first, everything else fits around it. And really making those conscious decisions as to how you want to live your life. What is your 10 abundant life look like? Spending a day really dreaming about it, thinking about it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What is your 10 life? What is it? And, maybe have a good friend that you can sit down and have that conversation and go back and forth of what does it look like? What would the 10 life be? And one of the things I like to tell people is, oh, this is a great one. So if you won the lottery, and this lottery is really unique because you get $5,000 a month, every month, like clockwork, for the rest of your life, what would you change?
That's a that's a
Right?
crazy thing. Yeah.
So you have to really think about it. What would I do differently? Okay, make it 10,000 a month. Okay, make it 100,000 a month. What would you do differently? Like it really challenge yourself. Get yourself thinking outside the box to say, I don't need 100,000. 100,000 a month is way too much.
Yep.
I only need, X. Well, this is the X number I need. This is, or no, I need 100,000 because some people probably have
Yep.
grandiose screens and they want that.
Hmm.
But so it's really, because Gary Vee could literally probably retire, but he
Yeah.
chooses to continue to
Yeah.
work his ass off.
Yeah. You're
So
right.
it's one of those things where really, why, so you have to really think about it. It's really not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about creating a life you love. And if you're not having, Gary Vee talks about this all the time. He's like, if you're in a job you hate, get the fuck out of Dodge. Quit that thing.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know? I mean, of course, you have to be realistic, and you can't quit until you have, some kind of money or some kind of, safety net or something. You can't just quit with, but it's one of those things where make plans to find something that fits what you really want to be doing, because life's too short.
It is life. That's something I believe a lot of people don't really keep in their mind at some point. I was one person that literally, when you have kids, like, and I'm pretty sure you felt this way, like, you really don't notice how fast time moves until you have kids, and you
Oh,
see how fast they grow up, how they go
yes.
from just being like little kids to then they're teenagers, and then they don't want to be around you no more because they want to go be teenagers. And you get to the point where it's me, like, I have my son and my daughter, and my daughter's older. My daughter's like, she's gonna be 13. My son is 8. My son is to the point where every day he's a different superhero now, and we're always playing and we want to do stuff. So he's always like, he wants to be with me. My daughter's to the point now where she's just like, she's over that. She's like, all right, dad, okay, yeah, like, let me be on my phone or let me go do this and that. And when I look at that, I realize, for my daughter, as much as I was there for her when she was a baby, there was a good portion of her life where I was just focused on working that I felt like I missed so much. So because of that, it's like I don't want to do that with my son. So it's like I'm trying to make up for my daughter for the time that I missed, but at the same time, I want to make sure I don't do that with my son. And so I overthink about it. But again, it's like one of those things where I look at them and I look at it like, yo, life is so short. And it gets me to the point that I would get so stressed out because I would be at work and like the day would be fine. And then out of nowhere, I would only have like a half hour left in the shift, but I would stop and I'd get really depressed because I'd sit there and be like, why am I here right now when I want to be with my kids? Why am I taking out this trash? Why am I cleaning this? Why am I doing overtime? And it's like, yeah, you need the money and everything. But then I start beating myself up. Like I spent more time at work than I do with my kids. And it eats away at me so bad.
Yep. Yeah. And really, I mean, that's where emotions are data. So when we feel sad or are mad or angry, it's really great to take this, oh, why am I feeling that? Take that moment to really, really investigate it. Be an investigator in your own life, in your own emotions, your own thoughts. Really dig deep to know, who am I? Oh, that's an interesting thought. That's an interesting feeling. What is that about? And really, truly figure it out, and I'm full believer in therapy. So if you're depressed or anxious or whatever, definitely go to therapy, but coaching is lovely as well. So it just, pick your venues, but also having a really good friend can also be an amazing journey too of self-discovery as well, is having someone reflect back to someone, having relationships where people see the whole you is amazing. I can't encourage you enough to find people who can see you. And I found that in the VFriends Discord. I found many people who are willing to do that, to actually delve deep and see the authentic me. And it's just wonderful. It's really great to actually be recognized for who I am as an individual and develop those kind of relationships.
Yeah, I got to be honest. It took me a while to accept that and be vulnerable. There's so many people, and I used to be embarrassed about it, but now I really don't care. And even on the stream, there's so many people like, and I mention this a lot. Savvy, I don't know
Awesome.
what it was about Savvy was the only one for some reason. Like I've had so many conversations with people, but she was the only one that for some reason, when she was talking and everything, I could not stop breaking down because I felt like she was just, I didn't say anything to her. I didn't explain my life to her. I didn't say nothing, but I felt like she was looking into my soul and speaking everything that I had in the back of
Love
my
it.
mind. And it was crazy because she was speaking things and everything was just hitting right in the heart.
Oh,
Right
I
in the
love
heart.
it. I
And
love
I'm
it.
like, it was bugging me out because I'm like, I never like she was saying things and I felt like she was like trying to like be like, listen, I know, or you're going through this. And in my head, I'm like, but how? How the hell does she know? How can she tell? And it just got to the point where I'm like, this community is just packed with people who have all been through something at some point
Yep.
that affected them so deeply and that it's something they carry with them. And I feel like the VFriends community just has so many people that we can relate to each other and we can just look at each other and we just know, like, you understand, you get it. You know what I mean? We don't have to say much, we don't have to explain, but it's just a thing that we know. And
Mhm.
that's where I agree with you. Like, it took me a long time because I would have conversations and I'd be like, maybe I should say this because they said this and they're trying to be vulnerable. Maybe I should. And it took me a while to really let go and be like, you know what? Stop overthinking, because I kept thinking, why am I going to share so much with these people who I don't know? But then again, at the same time, I'm like, why am I worried to share things with these people who I don't know? I don't know them. I don't know them from a hole in the wall. I might never see them. So what does it matter if I cry or if I
Mhm.
express myself? Like, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to be like, okay, I don't want to talk to this person. Fine, whatever. But in every situation, it's been these people, like, we have those conversations and not even a few minutes after or the very next day, they're like, hey, how you doing? You all right? And they'll check up on, and I've never had that. I felt like whenever, if I was to get vulnerable or express certain things or show my emotions or feelings or thoughts or whatever it was, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Like I had to watch what I said or how I said it or what I didn't say because I was gonna get judged, or like again, it goes to the thing like it's looked at as a weakness or whatever. And this community and the people in it showed me like all of that is bullshit. All of that is just stuff that a lot of us put in our minds because the way that we were grown up and society makes us think
Mhm.
you can't say that, you can't tell no one that you're upset or you're sad or you need help because that means you're weak or that means you can't handle it or that means. And this community got me to be like, yo, all of that is bullshit. Like, you don't, that doesn't matter. That doesn't change your value, or that doesn't make you less of a man or less of a woman, or like none of that. It doesn't, none of that exists. I realized that all of it is just a state of mind that, in all honesty, this community has got me to kill. It got me to kill that part of like the scared, nervous, you know? And it's not to say that I'm fully.
Yeah, I mean, we're all a masterpiece in progress. I forget
Exactly.
there was some speaker at some conference that I went to that said we're all masterpieces in progress, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. I love it. So it's just, and I love to learn and to grow, and I think that, the more that we can lean into self-assessment and really be, it's all about me and 1% better. Um, Literally, that's the name of the game for me for 2024. That's my battle cry. I'm going to tell everybody it's really figuring out what is going on with yourself. And the V Friends community is one area that is just wonderful. They're just a great group of people, and you can find that anywhere. I think that
Yes.
I think that, as we go out into the world, we bring a little bit of V Friends everywhere we go, because we bring that out into our relationships. We bring that out into our families. One of the things that I'd love to end on is the fact that we set the tone in our households. And so this is why it's so important that we focus on ourselves and what we want. So for this Mother's Day weekend, if I could give anybody any advice, moms or any time you have a birthday or any special day, you need to ask for what you want. Nobody can read your mind. It is not possible to read your mind.
You're right.
And you need to ask for what you want, but it starts with you knowing you and knowing what you want. So I, literally asked my children for exactly what I wanted, and they gave a little pushback, so I modified it a little bit. But we're going to the park on Mother's Day and going back to when we used to um, have picnics at a local park. They used to when they were just little. So we're going back to that same park when they were little, and now they're big adults. So it's just fun to go back and reminisce when they were little and we used to play in the park. So really, I just want people to lean into, it's all about me, and it's not selfish, it's self first. And I love the fact that selfish is when you hurt other people. There's nothing, if you're doing something that's only benefiting for you, it doesn't matter. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, it's self first, and it's not selfish. So really lean into, being your authentic self.
And I love that. I don't think enough of us hear that. I definitely don't hear that enough. So I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate a lot of things that you and there's so many people that are doing things. And every time I talk to people, it's like the more and more I talk to them, every single person, whether it's on the podcast, in the community, in any of the social medias, everyone that I've been talking to lately is just from this community. And it's bled out to finding other people who aren't in the community, but are just so giving, you know what I mean? And it was something that, in all honesty, if it wasn't for the V friend community and for this space and everything like that, I don't think I would have been as open-minded as I am today, to the point where I'm willing to listen to people and give them the benefit of the doubt that they are the type of people they say they are. Because a lot of times online we tend to just go by what the appearance is, and we then meet these people in person and they're nothing like that. And I haven't had that experience yet. I've Each person that I've gotten to meet through any of these conversations, it's just shown me that they're even more amazing than what I think they are. And I always feel like it can't get any better, and I've been proven wrong every fucking time. And it's just so mind blowing that I didn't know that. Like, I spent a good portion of my life thinking like, nope, everyone's just kind of shitty. That's just the way that it is. And this community just shows that, nah, man, it's not that. It's just a lot of people have this guard up, and it's hard for them to just
Yeah.
find the right people to, like you say, be yourself. When you find that people, those people that you can be vulnerable with and know that you're not going to get judged, and you're actually able to like express yourself without holding back and without thinking twice and overthinking about what you're going to say, you just say it. Whatever's in your mind, you say it. And even if it comes out wrong, that other person's still willing to just sit there and be like, you know what, I get it. As much as it may sound confusing to anyone else, I've been through it. I understand. I can relate. And they're willing to just let you know, like, yo, just you're fine. You don't have to overthink. You're good. You're in a safe space. Like, it's okay. Go ahead. Let it go. Whatever it is. If you're mad, go ahead, yell. If you want to cry, go ahead, cry. If you feel like you got screwed over, or like you just missed your shot or whatever, like, there's so many different ways to look at it. But I feel like everyone in this community has been through something that there's no way that you can't find someone to relate to what you're going through or what you're trying to do next. And that's what I love about it. There's just so many people that are willing to share, whether it's just because they need to let it out or whether they want to help the next person that's going through something similar as themselves. But the whole thing is just to do better. It's not to sit there and judge. It's not to point the finger and say you did it wrong or you messed up and there's no going back. And I haven't heard anything like that from anybody. There's other people in my personal life that I'll say these things or I'll express, and they're like, "Oh, that sucks. You shouldn't have did it. I don't know what to tell you." You know, like, and in my head, I'm like, "Bro, you just went through the same thing. Why can't you
No.
be a friend and just talk?" And like in this community, that's what everyone's been. Everyone is like a therapist or something now. Like everyone just wants to, like,
Well, I think it's just that we I really truly believe that like-mindeds gather, they attract to each other, and so Gary is a magnet of just these wonderful people that we're all, most of us are all entrepreneurial minded, so all the entrepreneurial minded are attracted to him. So therefore, we have this wonderful community. But it's one of those things where we can create that in our own lives too, outside of the VFriend community. I
true.
really truly believe that when you are your authentic self, there's this energy that's created when you're your authentic self that you attract more people, and the people that are not meant to be around you don't find, they literally don't want to spend time with you anymore. So I
True.
really truly believe as you step into your whole being and your authentic self, that you're going to find your people. It's
I
just
agree.
they're going to show up,
I
you
agree.
know. And I feel so blessed that I have just about 200 clients that I feel like some of them have come to me on such thin threads. It's just amazing on how they found me, out of all the possible CPAs. So it's just really exciting when you know that you can attract people when you are living in your authentic self. And I think the VFriend community is just a training ground for us to do that and go back and do it in our
Totally
own
agree.
lives. So
Yep.
the online view world is just a way for us then to lean into and teach it to our family, teach it to our
Yes.
friends.
Yes.
And um, I think it's really important that we do the self-assessment, because if there are people in our lives, even family, that we let go of, that are toxic, that are not healthy for
Yes.
us. There's
100%.
really that whole, it's one of those things where you literally draw really healthy boundaries. And Rochelle Indra is wonderful. She has 2 different podcasts on boundaries. So if you have boundary issues, Rochelle Indra, the shit they should have taught you in school but didn't, that's her podcast. You definitely want to check her out. So it's definitely really leaning into creating a life you love. And that's why, I wanted to come up with a name for me um, that represented abundance. And so that's why I came up with the whole Diamond Deb.
And I love it. I love it.
And I have my sparkle rings. I don't know. This one here is the one that has all
Got the infinity gauntlet over there. You got all the
so I got my rings.
Yep.
When I wore my sparkly rose today.
I love it.
And it's just one of those things where really leaning into helping people have a bright life, a life full of sparkles and just lots of blessings. It's just so important that people know that there's really good stuff. And I do gotta say that even though I come across as a super positive person, I've had a dark period in my life that really put deep roots down into the ground. So I feel like even though that I can, talk about all this positivity, that I've been in the dark, and I know what it's like when you're struggling in a whole bunch of different arenas. And so therefore it just made me a better coach, someone that can really help people go from being a 0 on the abundance scale all the way up to 10, so they can really take that journey, and I can take that journey with them with compassion and no judgment. It's just data, no judgment.
I love that. And it's hard. It's hard to find people that are willing to do that, and like you said, and just not judge you on whether your decisions or your thoughts or your feelings. And I love that you're offering that, and that you're willing to spread that message and make it louder, and that that's your goal. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you just one more thing.
Sure.
I love to hear about your plans in the future, your projects, goals, anything that you're working on. Is there anything that's that you're working on that's new? Any
Yeah.
new in your area that you want to focus on? I know that you mentioned that you're looking to go for to get a spot as a speaker at
Oh,
VCon this year, so I know that's one
yes.
thing. But besides that, is there anything else that you're working towards, or a project that you do like to share with us that you have in the works coming up?
In the next 10 years, I would love for there to be 1,000 coaches teaching the abundance scale. That's what I would love. And how that will come to fruition, I'm not really certain. I know little bits and pieces of it. Like I want to create worker owner co-ops. I'm not sure how blockchain will fit in, but I have a funny feeling the blockchain is going to fit in there somehow. Um, and I really want to lean into um, people being an entrepreneurial spirit. That's why we're worker owner co-ops, because you're not doing business alone, but you actually are working with others. So that's one of the things. So having a bunch of coaches that are all in business together, creating more abundance for more people, just sounds amazing. So I'm not sure exactly how we get there. I have probably sometime by the end of the year, I'll be probably sometime right after VCon, I'll be launching some group programs for abundance. Right now, I just do individual one-on-one coaching, but after VCon, I'll be launching some group coaching, which will be, and there might be a beta group coming up soon. I'll be testing it out before VCon, but there'll be some limited spots there. So so you can watch my socials for that, for when those spots will open up. But yeah, so I'm in the works, wanting to really help people create more abundance in their life, to live a 10 on the abundance scale.
I love that. And just in case for anyone tuning in or anyone listening to this after we went live, wherever you're listening or watching, any information that Deb has shared with us throughout this podcast is going to be listed in the description below, as well as any links to her Discord, her Facebook group, any of her social media. Make sure that you go and give her a follow, show her some love, hit her up, and get more involved. She's willing to share information. She's willing to help you out. Just, take the time and do that and put in the work, and she'll meet you halfway. Deb, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I'm definitely going to be bothering you about these financial things. Like I said, I finally got what I believe is a good job, and I don't want to mess things up. So I definitely want to work with you and see what we could do so I could get on the right track and make sure that, I don't fall back into the never-ending rabbit hole of credit card debt, and I don't have to burn any more things in my backyard.
That was awesome. I
But
love that. I'm going to use that one. That's going to be one of my
I'm
stories.
telling you, yeah. But thank you so much. I truly appreciate the time. Thank you, everyone who's in the chat right now. Soggy, thank you for showing up. Knox, thank you. Noxo, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and kick it in the chat. And yeah, man, this has been Clocking Out. My name's PR, the King of Hearts. Deb, thank you for joining us. And I love y'all. Stay safe. Peace.